Greetings of the day, dear students. We have been discussing about unit number 4 of Sanitation Microbiology, that is the solid waste management. We have seen the various sources and kinds of solid waste and biodegradable and non-biodegradable solid waste, and the next important topic mentioned in the syllabus, various approaches for solid waste management. And there are several methods of solid waste management are in practice. One of the major important method is, this is one of the oldest method in fact, that is landfill. So in this particular class we are going to discuss how landfill is one of the important method for solid waste management and what are the role of microorganism and their potential issues in landfill. So landfill, you know that is open dumping. Okay, so open dumping is one of the oldest and most common method of waste disposal, especially in our country. Okay, so that is the trash heaps are left open in our environment, which is sparse covering which can attract the pest and vermin. Okay, so the heap of waste that can be left open in the ecosystem or the environment, it attracts the pest and or a vermin, and these dumps are subjected to open burning that can release toxic fumes and smoke. Okay, this is the way how people are dumping this waste. First they will everything they will dump in a particular site, and once everything is dumped, then they will subject it to open burning sometimes, that creates a toxic fumes and smokes. Enough heat has been generated which trigger spontaneous combustion, and it causes lot of environmental issues. The waste are illegally dumped into the water bodies such as freshwater system, that is rivers, canals, or they used to fill the land depressions without proper consultation. And these practices causes lot of environmental issues that causes the deterioration of the balance of the ecosystem. And this range from the degradation of the soil quality to the leaching toxic chemicals into the underground water sources. So because of all these things, proper waste disposal method should be adopted. Now, before we are going to discuss the landfill in detail, we should know what are the conventional method of waste disposal. Okay, the method of waste disposal, that is, and what are the method of waste management also. The one is the landfill, then composting, incineration, waste compaction, vermicomposting, and biogas generation. So these are the waste disposal approach that is conventionally used. In your syllabus, we are going to discuss landfill, composting, then vermicomposting in detail. So before we are going to discuss landfill, we should cover briefly about all those things. So here you can see the landfill, the open dumping. Incineration is the burning of the waste material in a dumped place. Then the waste compaction, the waste are compacted and arranged in a particular layer. Then the biogas generation, you can see the waste materials are dumped. From that, the waste materials are using to create the biofuels. And composting, you can see that especially the waste materials are vegetables and some animal debris. Okay, you can use composting. And if you use earthworms specifically for the waste disposal, that is known as vermicomposting. Now we are going to discuss one by one. Landfill, the waste that cannot be used or recycled are separated out first. Then it is spread a thin layer in low-lying areas along with a certain soil. A layer of soil is added after each layer of garbage then this area is, those area used for landfill is officially declared as unfit for construction of building for the several years, approximately 20 years, the next 20 years. So that is one of the important things. Next one is incineration. Incineration is nothing but the controlled combustion of garbage to reduce the incombustible matter such as ash, waste, gas, etc. This is the controlled combustion of garbage, and this is a good method, but it creates lot of issues. It exhausts the gases and which are toxic, and thus it should be treated before they released into the environment, and this process can reduce the volume by waste by 90%. So one of the most hygienic method of waste disposal, that is incineration. So the heat generated is used to produce electricity, and it is a non-eco-friendly approach. Incineration is not an ideal method for waste disposal. The generation of greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide and carbon monoxides are created or produced due to this incineration. That is why it is not a non-eco-friendly. It is a non-eco-friendly method. Next one is the compaction of waste. The waste materials such as cans, plastic bottles, etc. are compacted in blocks before recycling. The waste materials are dumped and they will be compacted in the form of a block, and that prevent the oxidation of metals and reduce airspace need. Okay, it can reduce the airspace that is required, thus making the transportation easy, and the positioning of the waste is also easy. The next one is biogas generation. The biodegradable food materials such as organic waste material, animal waste, and such kind of waste are sent to the biodegradation plants, and this biodegradation plants, there is a conversion of the waste material by the utilization of microorganism, and this gas is known as biogas, which degraded by the bacteria, fungi, or other microorganisms such as actinomycetes. Okay, the organic matter serve as a food for this microorganism, and the waste has plenty of nutrients, and these microorganisms are degraded this particular nutrients, and this degradation can happen both aerobically or anaerobically, and that will be created the end product like gas, that is methane and hydrogen. Then this biogas generated by, and this process can be used as a fuel, and the residues can be used as a fertilizer. Okay, and you know that this is very important nowadays, because the biogas is that can be used as a fuel nowadays in our country. You know, the biofuels, the fuel price is increasing every day, so that is why this can be used as a one of the effective and cost effective methods for a utilization of this particular waste for the value added products. Next one is composting. The food scraps or yard waste, etc. are the major types of waste material which are thrown every day in our routine life, and these waste materials decompose with the time, and this waste material being buried under layers of soil and left to decay under action of microorganisms that result in the formation of nutrient rich manure, that is known as compost, and that can be used as a fertilizer, and this will enrich the quality of the soil and also increase the water retention or holding capacity of the soil. So that will be enhance the agricultural crop, and the productivity will be increased. It is the best alternative to the chemical fertilizers. So composting is an important method. Next one is vermicomposting. This is another one of the best method of waste disposal, and this is the process of generating waste by the degradation of earthworms and that produces the nutrient rich manure from the organic material that is degraded by earthworms. This earthworm consume the organic material, they digest and they utilize these materials for their food, and the byproducts of this digestion by this earthworm convert the soil rich nutrient rich, which enhance the growth of bacteria and fungi, and that is known as compost. And it is an effective method than the traditional composting or application of fertilizers. Generally, it is the best method. The quantity is also good, and traditional composting, in comparison with the traditional composting, vermicomposting is very, very important and one of the best method. So, in our syllabus, we are going to discuss the details about landfill, composting and vermicomposting. So, landfill, it is a place. What do you mean by landfill? It is a place where the waste is kept and buried after stored to remove any recyclable material. And the waste has very, very notorious smell. It will look very, very bad, and which are located far away from the people. There is a vacant area. There is no, that is located away from the people, those who are living. Okay, so this landfill is one of the oldest and most common methods of waste disposal. And you know that a landfill site, that can be a tip, that can be a dump or rubbish dump or garbage dump or dumping ground, etc. It's a site for the disposal of waste material. So it requires a lot of acres of land that is not that is away from the residential area, and that is a completely isolated area, and there we can deposit lots of waste material, and that is known as a landfill site. And these are used for the waste management purpose, such as that is used for that storage, that is temporary storage, consolidation, transfer, or for various stages of processing the waste, like sorting, treatment and recycling. There itself we can do all this process, and this waste material should be stabilized, and the landfill may undergoing a severe shaking or soil liquefaction of the ground. Sometimes if earthquake, okay, such kind of phenomenon has happened, this landfill may undergoing shaking that disperse the waste material and create the drastic impact to the ecosystem. And here you can see in this picture, there is a dumping ground. Okay, this, that is by using a vehicle that is dumping, you can see how pathetically the waste is dumped. Okay, and here you can see a lot of carriers. These birds will be carrying this particular waste from one place to another, and that can be transmitted for the microorganism, especially pathogenic microorganism that causes the infectious disease. Okay, that is the drastic impact of landfill. Then how will you operate the landfill? So the operation of landfill for non-hazardous waste material which meet specification by applying the technique such as, first one, which confines the waste to a small an area as possible, which you need to utilize the space. First of all, nowadays we don't have space. Okay, so this landfill require a lot of space, so you have to adjust the space, confine the waste how much ever it is possible, how much small as far as possible you need to confine, then compact the waste to reduce the volume. Okay, rather than dumping and spreading throughout a particular open ground, you need to compact, then cover the waste. Every day you need to cover with the layers of soil or other type of material such as wood chips or fine particles. Okay, so that is very, very important. So these are the three important operations in the landfill. So in the landfill, one of the important engineered facility is known as sanitary landfill. So in sanitation microbiology, this is very, very important. So it is an engineered facility that confine the waste. First you separate, segregate and confine the waste. The sanitary landfills are intended as a biological reactor. Okay, this landfill is a biological reactor, that is the waste materials are kept in a reactor or bioreactor in which microbes are applied which break down the complex organic molecule into the simpler, less toxic components over time. And these reactors must be designed and operated according to the regulatory standards and guidelines. So this is very, very important. Nowadays, biotechnology is very, very important to develop such kind of landfill or bioreactor for processing the solid waste. Then the mechanism of landfill operations. There are two important things. One is aerobic decomposition. Next one is anaerobic decomposition. So these are the microbial process where it is very, very important. The first stage in which the waste are broken down, followed by 4 stages of anaerobic degradation. All the waste that is dumping in the site or collected will be broken down into smaller forms by anaerobic degradation. The solid organic material which will be decaying rapidly as large organic molecule which degrade into a smaller molecule. The solid organic material in solid phase which will decay very rapidly as the larger organic molecule degrade into the smaller molecules. And these smaller organic molecules which start dissolving and move to the liquid phase, followed by the hydrolysis, and the hydrolyzed components are undergoing transformation. Later it will be volatilized to carbon dioxide and methane, and they forms biogas. With the rest of the waste that will be remaining a solid or a liquid. I repeat once again. First stage, this is very, very important. The waste materials are broken down into the 4 stages, that is by anaerobic reactions, and the solid organic material in the solid phase will be decayed very rapidly, and the organic molecule degrade into smaller molecules, and the smaller molecules they start dissolving and move to the liquid phase where hydrolysis will take place, and the hydrolyzed compounds are undergoing transformation and volatilization which forms carbon dioxide and methane. Then during the early phase there is very little material volume reaches the leachate as the biodegradable organic matters of the waste which undergo very rapid reduction in their volume. Okay, so during the early phase the materials, the volume reaches to the leachate, the little material volume reaches to the leachate as the biodegradable organic matter. How it will happen? The biodegradable organic matter of the waste undergo a rapid decrease in the volume. Then the leachate's chemical oxygen demand, the chemical oxygen demand of the leachates will be increases with increasing concentration of the recalcitrants or xenobiotics compared to that of more reactive components in the leachate. Okay, so once this particular process happens, the chemical oxygen demand of the leachate or the waste material will be increases with increasing concentration of the recalcitrant, and that will be that compared to the more reactive components in the leachate. So the successful conversion and stabilization of the waste in a syntropic will be depending on how microorganism population act as they will be act as in a coordinated way, especially in a syntropic interaction. The conversion and stabilization of the waste on how well the microbial population which functions as the syntropic interaction, that means the interaction between the different organism that is residing in that particular waste, and they share their nutritional requirement, they coordinate each other for their growth. Okay, so thus the degradation will be happening in a very perfect way. Then the next stage is very, very important. What are the various stages of the process that is happening into a landfill operation, especially when you are treating the solid waste in a municipal landfill, okay, in the large scale level, which undergoes 5 distinct phases. Phase 1, initial adjustment. Phase 2, transition. Phase 3, acid formation. Phase 4, formation, the fermentation and produce methane. Next one is the maturation and stabilization. these are the main stages of the landfill operations or the municipal landfill treatment process. First one is initial adjustment. So what do you mean by initial adjustment? When the waste, all the waste are adequately collected, transported and disposed into a proper place, that means to say in a landfill, the space, that is the void space, contain high volume of molecular oxygen. In between the, even if although you compact or confine, there will be lot of air that has lot of oxygen between the waste material, and this oxygen content of the landfill gradually decreases with the addition of compacted waste. So when you keep on adding the waste, the oxygen content will be decreased, then the microbial population will start growing, the density of the cells will be increases, and as this oxygen is present, aerobic biodegradation will happen, where oxygen acts as the primary electron acceptor. So that is the first phase. So initial adjustment, first the waste will be segregated and collected, and when you are keep on adding the waste material, the oxygen present in the waste material will be reduced, and when you keep on adding, the oxygen will be decreases, then you have to, then oxygen will be decreases, and when the waste is compacted, the oxygen will be reduced. Then the microbial population will start growing, the density of the microbial cell will be increases, that degrade the waste material by using oxygen as the terminal electron or primary electron acceptor, not terminal, primary electron acceptor. So once this is known as initial adjustment. So once this initial adjustment or oxygen is used as the bacteria as a primary electron acceptor and initiated this particular degradation, the next state is the transition. Then the oxygen is degraded by the microbial population. Okay, the oxygen level is decreased, and once all the oxygen level in the waste materials are decreases, then what will happen? The anaerobic condition will be created. Then the anaerobic condition, then what will happen is there is a transition. The primary electron acceptor will be transition will happen from molecular oxygen to nitrate and sulfates. Okay, because oxygen is displaced by carbon dioxide in that effluent. Okay, so the primary electron acceptor during a transition are converted into nitrate. That means they are not converted, that is replaced into nitrate, because anaerobic conditions have prevailed here, and this creates the nitrate and sulfates as the electron acceptor, and this anaerobic condition will happen. The third one is the formation of acid. The next one is the hydrolysis of biodegradable solids. Okay, in the whatever the biodegradable solids are present in the waste material, that will undergo hydrolysis, and there will be the formation of acid will takes place, that leads to the accumulation of volatile fatty acid, and they reduce the pH from 7.5 to slightly acidic, that is 5.6. Okay, the waste will be, acid formation will be created due to that, the formation, the acid formation, due to this particular formation, acid formation, the pH will be decreases. Then the decomposition of intermediate volatile fatty acids contribute to the chemical oxygen demand. The decomposition intermediates of volatile fatty acid contribute to the chemical oxygen demand. Then the long chain volatile organic acids are converted to acetic acid, carbon dioxide and hydrogen gas. The long chain volatile organic acid are converted to acetic acid, carbon dioxide and hydrogen gas. High concentration of volatile fatty acids increase the biochemical oxygen demand. Okay, high concentration of volatile fatty acid increase the biochemical oxygen demand, and concentration of volatile fatty acid which initiate the production of hydrogen by fermentative bacteria and stimulate the growth of hydrogen oxidizing bacteria which oxidizes the hydrogen. So what will happen? So once the concentration of volatile fatty acids are increases, the biological oxygen demand is also increases, and the volatile fatty acid, okay, or volatile organic acids will be increases, which initiate the production of hydrogen, and that get accelerated by the fermentative bacteria, which stimulate the growth of hydrogen oxidizing bacteria, which oxidize the hydrogen. Then the increase in the biomass of acidogenic bacteria will be prevailed in this particular waste material, which increase the amount of degradation of the waste material and consuming the nutrients and increase the metal concentration. The increase in the biomass of acidogenic bacteria, which increases the amount of degradation of the waste material and consuming the nutrients and increase the metal concentration. So that is the acid formation. The next one is methane fermentation, the phase 4. This is the longest phase in the decomposition, where the acid formation phase, intermediary products such as acetic acid, propionic acid, butyric acids, etc. will be produced and are converted to methane and carbon dioxide by methanogenic bacteria. So the acid which is formed from the waste material will be converted to the methane and carbon dioxide by methanogenic bacteria. Okay, the volatile fatty acids are metabolized by methanogens. The landfill pH will be again reaches neutral in level. Okay, so once this will happen, the landfill pH, the landfill water pH will be reaches into neutral level. The organic strength of the leachates expressed are oxygen demand. Okay, the strength of this leachate will be expressed as oxygen demand, which decreases with increase in carbon dioxide and methane gas production. Okay, so this will that will be the organic acid strength in the leachates expressed as oxygen demand, which will be decreases with increasing concentration of carbon dioxide and methane. This is the methane formation. So the last step is the maturation and stabilization step, where the rate of microbiological activity which reduces during this particular phase due to the supply of nutrients, which limits the chemical reaction. The rate of microbiological activity reduces during this particular phase, that is due to the supply of nutrients and limit the chemical reaction. The methane production disappeared with the oxygen and oxidized species disappeared in the gas. Okay, the methane production disappeared with oxygen and the oxidized species disappeared in the gas, and this transforms the oxidation reduction potential. Okay, and this transforms the oxidation reduction potential in the leachate towards the oxidative process. Okay, so the final maturation and stabilization is the transformation of oxidation reduction potential or redox potential, the leachate, that is towards the oxidative process. Then the residual organic material, which will be converted to the gas due to the composting of organic matter, and which converted to humus like substances or simply humus, and that will be added to the soil. Okay, that is another important aspect. So the residual organic material after the conversion of the gas phase, that will be remained, and this waste material added to the soil as a humus. Okay, so these are the various steps of the stages in landfill, that is initial adjustment, transition, acid formation, methane fermentation, and final maturation and stabilization. Then this landfill has lot of social environmental impact or issues. Okay, the main problem is it causes lot of pollution. You know that by seeing this the initial figure itself, you can see what is the impact of landfill. They transfer the waste everywhere. There is a transferring of the waste material and spreading the communicable diseases is very, very common. Okay, then the first one is this will be disrupt the infrastructure, such as damage and access to the roads or by heavy vehicle. You know, we have seen that the roads are commonly blocked by the waste. Okay, so that is infrastructure disruption. Then the pollution on local roads and water bodies, which is obtained from the waste material, that causes a lot of issues, and that will be completely cause a lot of problems to the vehicle and their wheeling systems. Okay, and the pollution of the local environment, such as contamination in the surface water and groundwater, aquifers or soil will be a potential problem. This waste material will be deeply reaches into all the layers, and this will undergo biomagnification, and once it is entered into the food chain and the food web. Okay, and the leachate, which causes the contamination to the groundwater, when it is leaching out, the contaminants will be it will be reaches to the environment, and it causes a lot of issues. Then the decomposition of gas, the landfill gas can seep out into the surrounding air and soil. Okay, the landfill gases can seep out the surrounding air and the soil, and the methane, carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide, etc. are the greenhouse gases, especially methane, which are highly flammable and potentially explosive also. And you know that the increasing concentration of the carbon dioxide that create the global warming, the temperature of the atmosphere will be enhanced, and that will be creating a lot of issues in the ozone layer. So this carbon dioxide, which will be traps the heat in the atmosphere and contribute to climate change, especially global warming. And this can be act as the vectors. Okay, so here you can, in the initial phase, you can see, initial figure, you have seen lot of birds. Okay, and this the sites are the breeding grounds of rats and flies that spread the waste material everywhere. Okay, and that act as the spreading of the infectious disease. Okay, and in addition to all those things, there are a lot of other nuisance like wildlife disruption. Okay, this particular, if the waste materials are located near to the forest, then it will create lot of problem. Okay, so all this waste material can cause a lot of heat, and that can cause the forestation. There are a lot of flaming in the forest actually. Okay, so the wildlife disruption due to the occupation of the habitats and animal health disruption. The waste generation from landfills, dust, which will create odor, noise pollution, and reduce the local property value. Wherever the dust, the waste materials are so much, then you can see that the property value will be totally reduced. Then the people will not be preferring there to locate, and they will not reside there. Okay, so that is another problem. So because of all those things, although landfill is one of the method, it contributes lot of potential impact to the ecosystem. So that's all, dear students, about the landfill. So we can conclude. So today we have seen in this landfill. Okay, what do you mean by landfill? What are the major methods of waste disposal, such as landfill, incineration, waste compaction, biogas generation, composting, and vermicomposting. Then we have seen what is a landfill, what are the operations in landfill, what do you mean by sanitary landfill, what is the process mechanism, both aerobic and anaerobic decomposition by microorganism, what are the various stages of in landfill. Stage 1, the initial adjustment. Stage 2, the transition. Stage 3, the acid formation. Stage 4, the methane fermentation. And stage 5, the final maturation and stabilization. So there are various phases and stages. Finally, what are the environmental issues? What are the social and environmental impact of this particular waste management method like a landfill. That's all, dear students. So these are the references. You can refer any microbiology textbook. You can refer. Then thank you very much for watching this particular class and listening. If you are having any doubt, you can write it to me or you can ask me. Thank you very much. Take care.